Ngowi TV, informed economists and business perspective.
Good evening, everybody. On behalf of our partner institutions, I'm Fundanga, president of IFE, Institute for Finance and Economics, based somewhere in Woodlands there. I'm sure some of you have been there. The partner institutions, we have got Christian Michelson Institute of Norway. We also have the Tax Justice Network of Norway, as well as Mzumbe University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. So these are the partner institutions. They will be coming to speak. But I particularly want to welcome all of you. When you are organizing something like this, you don't know whether there will be 5 people or you have a full house. So I'm very happy that you have all come here. I remember my neighbor was commenting that at least it's good today we can discuss something other than debt. So it's a refreshing change, and I'm looking forward to some active participation. Obviously, this is a very important topic, and it affects all of us. Some of us might not know that it affects us because it is done under the cover of the veil. So now we want to see if we can uncover a little bit so that we can see exactly what is happening. So I will not take much time. My role is just to welcome you and to express our happiness that you are all here. Thank you very much.
On behalf of EAZ, we are very grateful to IFE and also in particular the former Bank of Zambia governor himself and all the partners that partner with IFE. And I've been going through the book. I think this is a topical issue, tax issues. And I think when I was looking at, I think Article 3 or Chapter 3, where we have case studies, and I think there's MTN South Africa. Then we have our own here, Zambia, we have been covered there. And it's a very easy to read book. And what I've liked is that the scholars who participated, they spoke the language of the common people on the ground. It is not very technical, so everyone can understand.
It has been a 4 years project from April 2014 to October. It will be ending in October 2018. And it was inaugurated in Tanzania at Mzumbe University. This is my university. That's where I'm based, in Tanzania. And this was done way back 28th August 2014. And it is generously funded by the Research Council of Norway, or Norwegian Research Council, and we are very grateful for that. They have, the council has made possible for this project to take place, including this book and so many other outputs, as you are going to see. So essentially, what has been done in this project, taxation institutions and participation, is really research work, investigating effects of tax havens on domestic revenue systems. I won't really go into detail, but we understand really when it comes to provision of public goods and services, domestic resource mobilization for countries, especially in this part of the world, is extremely important. If you don't do enough domestic resource mobilization, you have to depend on aid with all the conditionalities that come with it. You have to depend on borrowing with the debt, which we don't like to talk about here, and it becomes a problem everywhere. We see debt problem here, we see it in Mozambique, we see it across Africa, really. So those are kind of issues that have been covered here, but also issues related to institutions and citizen participation. Looking at the behavior, for example, of citizens when they see elites, for example, getting a lot of tax exemptions, when they're accessing tax havens, what is their incentive to pay or not to pay tax? Those are part of issues that have been covered.
African countries lose more in corporate tax evasion than countries anywhere else in the world when you look at it relative to the size of their economies. And also vast amounts of private wealth are stashed away in tax havens. At the same time, the levels of inequality, the differences between the income levels of the rich and the poor, are increasing. So it's against this very serious backdrop that we need to pose the question on why decades of efforts from national institutions and international institutions have not managed to reverse this trend. And why don't the vast values created in Africa seem to benefit all? This is, of course, a very complex question. A lot of answers are needed. But one thing seems very clear. You can't regulate what you can't see. The rise of tax havens situated in rich countries have enabled companies and individuals for many years in setting up structures with a complexity far beyond our imagination. The real owners behind assets are often well hidden from the tax authorities. Since a lot of the information only exists in the dark, it's no wonder that we have little firm evidence on the effects of tax havens, on issues like tax compliance and tax lobbying. With this book, we want to change all that.
I thought I should just address some of the issues which the book covers. And this is particularly related to how the international tax system affects and interacts with the domestic tax system. There are many tax systems in an African context. You have the international tax system, taxation of multinational companies. We have the national tax system, which mainly involves domestic enterprises. And then we have the subnational tax system, which actually affects many more people than the national tax system. And then also we have all the informal tax systems, informal types of taxes. And often these issues are discussed in silos, that there are separate boxes here and we have to address it separately. But there are so many links between these different tax systems, one can say. And the book tried to shed light in particular on the links between the international tax system and the domestic and national tax system. And some of the questions we have addressed in the book is, firstly, what are the effects of the international tax system on domestic revenue mobilization in African countries? And how does the existing financial environment and international tax system influence the role of banks and other enablers of capital flight? Then we have also a discussion on what is being done internationally to fix the international tax system. There are a lot of international tax initiatives now, which also affects Zambia. Zambia is also involved in some of the processes, at least as maybe not actively involved in influencing, but at least as invited to some of the meetings in the OECD and so on. And then how are African countries reacting to these international initiatives? What are the relevance for Zambia, for instance, of the BEPS process, which is now run coordinated by the OECD? The BEPS is the base erosion and profit shifting. And then what now? How can one move forward to develop a more sustainable, effective tax system?
But most importantly also is that if individuals and companies are going to pay taxes, they must see where the money is going. I'm sure that many of African countries, this is the biggest problem. Even if people are willing to pay, you just see that the money has been spirited away into somebody's pocket. You are not going to be ready to pay tomorrow. So, but if people can see that each time when they pay, they've got new roads or health facilities have improved, which is the case in Norway anyway. Everybody's so happy that, I can stay here, my children will have education, the health services are good, the government is spending the tax money we pay on these things. You will find that compliance is very high. So one of the challenges for Africa is to make sure that this scourge called corruption, the abuse of public resources, must be addressed if we are going to have tax-compliant societies. In recent times, we have read that the biggest trading partner for Zambia is Switzerland. All your copper goes to Switzerland. Does Switzerland have the capacity to use your copper? Is it really being utilized in Switzerland or is it going somewhere? Then why is it that it's being booked as going to Switzerland? Even when you listen to the CSO during the monthly statistical bulletins that they give. I hope you listen very carefully, because they do provide a lot of statistics. And consistently, Switzerland is now Zambia's biggest trading partner. Obviously, it's something that we need to interrogate in order to understand how Switzerland suddenly has become our biggest consumer of copper, and what the implications are. Obviously, Switzerland is known to be one of that is the original tax haven anyway. Although there have been a lot of these initiatives to try and bring them into order, but I'm sure that there must still be a lot of loopholes. I know that Glencoe, for instance, when they established, when they floated the stock exchange, a lot of their staff actually became millionaires instantly. And we also know that in the canton where they are based, they even passed a law to reduce the taxes so that they can accommodate these new millionaires who had been created by the floating of this company. So we face serious threats. And I think, as has been said already, it is in our collective interest to understand what is going on around us, because that money is supposed to be used to develop our country, to improve the quality of life of our people. I'm sorry, let me bring back the debt issue. If we, I'd vowed not to use it. If we don't collect our tax revenues, we will end up going to borrow. Is that what we want? Can't we finance our own development without having to borrow? So that is the challenge we all face, and I'm sure that we can be able to address this problem. If you see that somebody is abusing money which you paid for through taxation, I think you have got a right of questioning why the money you worked for and you willingly gave to the government through ZRA should now be abused in that manner.